His 7-year-old son, Daniel, have an inherited form of mental retardation. Jerry McDevitt, a lawyer for World Wrestling Entertainment, joins us. Jerry, what was the child's health problem?
Well, the information that's come to light in the last couple days, Greta, indicates that the child care problem was a continuing source of tension between Nancy and Chris. The information that we have available now, the best information, indicates that the child may have had a very rare thing called the Fragile X syndrome. It is a genetic defect that leads to special education needs. The information that we have unearthed in the last couple of days from people who were very close to Chris, and which we have passed on today to Lieutenant Polk and the people that are doing the investigations, is that as recent as Thursday, the day before the death, Nancy called the doctor, the family doctor. His name is Dr. Aston. Dr. Aston also, by the way, today indicated he was the one who prescribed steroids for Chris. But in any event, on the Thursday before the death, Nancy had called to the doctor asking for help in terms of where they would satisfy this child's special education needs. They were very acute at the time because they had just moved into a new district. We're trying to figure out where the child would go to school. Friday morning, we know that Chris went also down to Dr. Aston's office for an appointment. What we've been told is that when he went in the lobby, he was signing autographs and being personable and all the things that he normally was, and he met with Dr. Austin. Dr. Austin can speak better for what was discussed there, but we have reason to believe that he also discussed the family problems and the depression that he was feeling over the inability to come up with relax the tensions, if you will, about how they were going to care for this child that had these special education needs. And we know now that when he left the office, went back home, and according to, I think, District Attorney Pollard, indicated that the first murder occurred shortly thereafter when he got home.
Jerry, you said that in describing, you said that Dr. Aston admitted to prescribing steroids for Chris. Why did Chris need steroids?
Well, you would have to ask Dr. Aston that. From what I understand, Dr. Aston is a family friend, the treating physician for the whole family, including, I would imagine, the young boy. I think in a statement he released today, he indicated that he prescribed them because he had a low testosterone count. And if a doctor prescribes anabolic steroids to a patient for legitimate medical purposes, it's a perfectly legal transaction in America. Now, to my knowledge, that's the only public statement he has made about that. But I think, you know, when this whole thing came out, there was all this roid rage sort of talk that I don't think really the evidence really ever supported. When you look at the forensic evidence, it's known
Not
to date.
yet. Not yet.
Well,
we don't. I mean, I know the whole thing that the wrestling WWE issued a statement saying that, you know, because she was bound, the mother was bound, that and the sort of one was killed after another 24 hours. I mean, I know the sort of whole litany, but I thought it was unusual that the WWE was so out front with why this wasn't steroids when we didn't have the toxicology report back and there's steroids in the house.
No, but
frankly, I would have put on the brakes and sort of, I'd lie low till I had the facts, but it was weird to me that they came out like, no, it's not that.
Well, if I could explain, Greta, frankly, right after, if you listen to the press conference, the district attorney was very responsible and did not link this to steroids in any way, but some of the early reporting coming out of that original press conference, particularly, to be honest with you, Fox reporting, was a little bit over the top on that. The reason we put out that press statement was to try to inject some sensibility into this, to look at the facts. This is not a rage killing. These are things that occurred over several days, according to the information that was then available. But be that as it may, what we now know is that after the first killing of Nancy, that he was in the house with this young boy, that they had struggled with for what they were going to do with this child. The wife is now dead. You can imagine what Chris was probably thinking about. This is not to excuse anything that was done. They're crying.
No, and I understand that, and I've got to go. But I understand your point, and I certainly, I mean, listen, Jerry, I totally agree that, you know, to even assume that it's steroids at this point, I think it's you investigate it because they're there.
Sure.
But I think you make no assumptions at all until you get all the reports back. I agree with you on that. Jerry, I got to go. Thank you, though.
Thank you, Greta.
Let's bring NYU Medical Center Assistant Medical Professor Dr. Roshni Raj and forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Baden. Dr. Roshni, first to you. What do you make of this investigation so far? I mean, Jerry's right, we shouldn't necessarily jump on steroids, but what are anabolic steroids?
Well, the steroids we're talking about are a form of hormone, and usually it's either testosterone or a synthetic derivative of testosterone. And, you know, the steroid story is interesting. We definitely think that there is some increased aggression in some people who take steroids, but it hasn't been well studied. You're not going to go give a bunch of people steroids and study them because we know that they have such harmful effects on your liver, on your heart, on your kidneys. So we don't have good evidence as to how much of a direct cause there is between steroids and aggression other than some anecdotal reports. So it's very difficult to say, even in someone who's taking steroids who performs an aggressive act, was it the steroids that caused it?
Dr. Baden, the anabolic steroids we're told from the house, there are two things. One is that the doctor said that he prescribed them for low testosterone in Chris, and then you have the needle marks in the child, and the child is at least it's reported, may have some growth issues. Who do you think, just give me a wild guess, who do you think was getting the steroids? Were they both getting it, and what would be the medical need?
It sounds like the father was getting the steroids, and the son might have been given growth hormone because in some of these mental retardation diseases there is a slowness in growth and shortness. Somebody said a dwarf. The WWE had said that he had Fragile X disease, which is a congenital condition associated with mental retardation, sometimes autism, and growth problems. So it sounds like the growth hormone might have been used by the dad, giving it to his son to grow more, and the steroids used by him. The reason you have low testosterone, in addition to the other abnormalities that steroids just mentioned, is you do get low small testicles. There's a diminished testosterone output by the body in somebody who's taking a lot of steroids.
All right, Dr. Raj, the report is that when he went to the doctors on Sunday, everybody who saw him said he was perfectly nice, signing autographs, etc. Then that he goes home and apparently commits the first homicide a few hours ago. If you have a rage from a steroid, assuming that, you know, does it come on that quickly, or would you expect to see signs earlier?
Well, steroids can cause a whole host of psychological effects. There is the rage, which we think of as a sort of one-time, very impulsive, strong mood, but you can also get depression. You can get paranoia, which might not just be in one moment. That could last for days or even weeks. Sometimes when you stop the steroids, you get depression. So this kind of behavior, although it doesn't fit the typical pattern of the roid rage, could be something that was caused by steroid use or even the discontinuation of the steroid use. But we don't really have a typical picture because, like I said, we don't have great studies on what do steroids do exactly to the brain.
And, of course, we also don't have the autopsy report back with the toxicology to figure out even what was in his system, but we will get that. Dr. Baden, Dr. Raj, thank you both very much.